Hey guys, Buffer Game back today, bringing out a video for our Cold War weapon series. And today we're going to be covering the top 5 weapons that I think are going to be viable in Call of Duty Warzone once the integration from Cold War weapons takes place on December 16th. So we're going to go through the top 5 weapons that I think will be viable and a good addition worth you leveling up in Cold War. It's a grind right now to level up weapons in Cold War. So we're going to go over the top 5, one weapon for every category in the weapon classes, which you should be dedicating your time to since it does take so long. Now we have the pushback for this was made to December 16th is when these weapons will be integrated, so you'll have a lot of different attachment combinations. I'm going to assume we'll be able to use a gunfighter perk, maybe. Otherwise, we'll look at just top 5 attachments per weapon. But we have quite a bit of a list here to go through. So again, this is going to be the top 5. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. And first off, you can see here the AK-5 or the Krig 6 is going to be the first weapon. So if we go and inspect this weapon, the first option I think here, first off, the weapon has very, very low recoil and not the best damage. It's basically your no recoil, lower damage on the equivalent side to the M13 almost. So if we look at how we want to kit this out, I'm thinking the best attachments for this may be the Vision Tech 2x. It's going to give you a 2x magnification on this weapon since we're really not going to be wanting to engage at super long ranges. This should keep the recoil relatively low and allow you to engage targets at that medium range distance very accurately and get all your shots on target. Since it should be a lower damage weapon, this will allow you to land those shots. Now, speaking of damage models, we don't know since Raven Software is going to be rebalancing all of these specifically for Warzone. So this is just an assumption based on how they perform right now, but we'll have to see what the rebalance looks like. So for a muzzle, I'm thinking the Agency Suppressor. This is going to assist us with our muzzle flash concealment. Obviously, for Warzone, it'll keep us off the minimap, which is key in Warzone. It'll also help us with the vertical recoil control by 7%. So that's going to lower that recoil control even more. Now, the cons here, the effective damage range is reduced by 30%, and the bullet velocity is also reduced. So it's going to be really up to you. You could also go with the regular suppressor, which will take not as big of hits to the damage range and the bullet velocity. But again, we'll have to see what the stats look like in the game. But I think either of the suppressors will be a good option for this weapon. Next up for the barrel, this 19.7-inch Ranger barrel. This is going to assist with our bullet velocity by 100%, and the aim, walk, and movement speed will only be reduced by 20%. Now, there are some other options here, like the effective damage range up by 150%. Doesn't say anything about the bullet velocity, though. So we'll have to wait and see what that looks like. And then we have the 15-inch barrel here. This is going to be more so close quarter. So I'm thinking it's either going to be the Ranger barrel or the Takedown barrel for the 19.7-inch. Right now we're going with the Ranger barrel because we want to increase that bullet velocity due to what we've lost with the suppressor. But it could be either or. I think the effective damage range is also going to be key here. And if we're getting effective damage range increased by 150%, I'm assuming the bullet velocity will also be increased. But we'll have to wait and see, again, what the stats look like when these weapons are transferred into Warzone on December 16th. Now for the body here, we're going to skip out on this since this is mainly just going to be used for that medium to short, long range engagements here. We aren't really going to need any of the laser options on this. If we don't have something like a tac laser that's going to improve our stability and ADS speed like we do in Modern Warfare, so we're going to skip out on that. Now the underbarrel attachment, we're going to go with the Field Agent Grip. This is going to assist with the vertical recoil control by 6%, and the horizontal recoil control will be increased by 20%. The cons here are going to be the shooting movement speed will be down by 26%. But again, mainly this is shouldn't really be too big of an impact, and it's really going to be dependent on what these weapons look like in Warzone, but I think this will be a good option to just help this have even less recoils. Now, the last attachment here, I'm only going with the 5 attachments for this particular weapon just due to how I believe it's going to play out in Warzone, but we're going to go with a 50-round Stenag mag. So this is going to increase our magazine ammo capacity from the base of 30 to 50 rounds. The max starting ammo will also be increased as well as the ammo capacity overall on your soldier. The cons are going to be the reload quickness since we have a larger magazine, and the aim down sight time will be reduced by 15%. So I think those are the best options here for the Krig 6. Now again, all these are going to be really subject to whatever the weapon balance looks like in Warzone. You may end up with a longer optic on this for longer ranges. It really just going to depend, but right now, based on how it handles in game and how I think it'll translate into Warzone, I think this is going to be a pretty viable option to start. Next up, let's go to the M16. So in Modern Warfare, we can make our own M16 with the burst option. However, the burst spread on there is not really viable for Warzone. However, this weapon here, the M16, handles as a tactical rifle in Cold War, and it handles really, really well. The burst spread on this is not very large. So let's look at what I think will be the better attachments for this one to kind of make it very viable at those medium to longer range engagements. So first off, for the optic, we're going to go with the Vulture Custom Zoom. This is going to allow us to increase our magnification at will from 1 to 10 times magnification. So you'll really be able to pick your range engagements here anywhere from closer to very long ranges. And that'll give you out to basically longer magnification than most of the marksman rifles have in Call of Duty Modern Warfare and Warzone right now. So that'll be a really good option to really pick what kind of distance you want to engage at with this weapon. Now the muzzle on this, again, we're going to go with the agency suppressor, keep us off the minimap, as well as the vertical recoil control by 15%. That should help reduce the bullet spread on that burst. The cons here are going to be the bullet velocity, so I have to keep that in mind here, but we're going to mitigate that with the barrel option. We're going to go with the 20.5-inch Task Force barrel. This is going to increase our damage by 14%, our effective damage range by 50%, so we should completely negate the suppressor option here, as well as the bullet velocity will be increased by 50% as well. So the cons are going to be that the vertical recoil control will be reduced by 20%, and the horizontal recoil control will be reduced by 15%. So we're kind of negating what we're doing with the suppressor and the other options here to reduce our recoil and kind of tighten that spread, but we'll see what it looks like in Warzone. This is definitely going to be a good option, and if it's not, we just would swap out the muzzle or the agency suppressor for maybe something like a base suppressor, which won't really hurt our bullet velocity as much, and we could also throw something like a muzzle brake on there to help out with the recoil control even more. Now the body, I'm going to go with the Tiger Team Spotlight. This will help reveal distance. This is really an attachment that I think is going to be iffy. You probably don't need this, but it could be viable in Warzone. We'll have to wait and see at to what ranges this will go out to. So I think this is definitely an optional category. I don't really think you need it. Now for the underbarrel, since we're going to definitely want to put on something to help with that recoil control even further, so the Field Agency Foregrip, this will assist with the vertical recoil control by 10% and the horizontal recoil control by 40%. The cons being the shooting movement speed, but again, we're not really concerned with that. Using this as a tactical rifle, we're trying to engage at medium to longer ranges with this, essentially. So we'll go ahead and put that on. Now for the magazine here, again, we're going to go with a 54 Stenag mag. We have some other options here, like the Salvo 54 round, which for some reason is the model for this is based on a 20 round magazine, so I'm not sure how that's supposed to be a 54 round, but I don't think all this is needed. I think a 54 round just give you the max ammo capacity that you can hold with this weapon. This will increase the magazine capacity from 30 to 54, increase your starting ammo as well as your total ammo capacity on your soldier. Cons being reload quicker since we have that larger magazine and the ADS time. So we'll go ahead and keep that on there. Handle, I'm going to go ahead and just skip out on that. I'm not sure if that's really going to be viable to how you're going to want to pick engagements with this weapon, but again, we'll have to see if you can even select 8. Otherwise, we would just get rid of some of these as well. But for the stock, I think probably the tactical stock will be the best option here for the aim walking movement speed. However, you can go with no stock selected and just go with the base stock that comes with the M16 as well to save out on an attachment if you're only allowed 5, which I'm going to assume you probably will be. So if that is the case, we would just deselect the stock and probably the body attachment here for the light, as well as maybe one other attachment. Really going to have to pick and choose, but again, we'll see how that looks like if we can use 8 attachments or just 5. Next up, shocker here is going to be the MP5. So this MP5, again, we're going to see how this compares to the Modern Warfare MP5, but you do have some very unique attachments here. So for an optic, again, this will be optional based on the number of attachments, but we're going to go with the Microflex LED. This is just going to give you the 1.25 magnification as well as a nice clean, clear sight picture to get shots on target easily. The muzzle, again, we're going to go with the agency suppressor. So this is going to be a CQC weapon. We're going to want to, be suppressed, and we're not really worried about damage range and things like that. So this is going to assist us with keeping ourselves off the minimap, as well as the vertical recoil control. The cons are the effective damage range is reduced by 25%. But again, we're not really concerned with that, with how you want to use an MP5. Even with how it's used, the Modern Warfare MP5 is used in Warzone. It's not a ranged weapon. It's a close quarters weapon. So we're going to use it just like that, and we'll see how it compares with the stats. Now the barrel option, going to go with a 9.5-inch Task Force barrel. This will increase our damage by 6%, our effective damage range by 50%, and the bullet velocity by 75%. The cons are going to be the max starting ammo. The recoil control for vertical and horizontal will also be decreased by 20% for vertical and 15% for horizontal. But again, at those close quarters engagements, we really shouldn't need to worry about that. And plus, we're also going to be mitigating that with some of the other attachments here. So body, this is going to be perhaps an optional attachment. You can also swap out the optic for this if needed. This is going to increase our hip fire accuracy by 36%. This is a SWAT 5mm laser. The con is the ADS time by 8%, but we're going to mitigate that elsewhere as well. Now the underbarrel attachment, this is going to increase or tighten up our vertical recoil control by 6%, as well as the horizontal recoil control will be increased by 20%. Cons are going to be the shooting movement speed. So that's one option there. There are some other options, but if we're looking for the most accurate build here, definitely the Field Agent Suppressor. Now here's a unique attachment here. In Modern Warfare, the biggest magazine you have available is a 45 round magazine. So here we have a 50 round drum. So you increase that by 5 over the Modern Warfare version of the MP5. And we'll have to see if that's really going to be necessary or not. But again, you're going to increase your overall ammo capacity for the weapon, as well as have at least those 5 extra shots there, which could prove to be key or not. We'll have to wait and see. But the cons here are going to be the reload quickness and the ADS time. So keep that in mind. Another good option would be perhaps the 40 round speed mag here, or the Savell 40 round magazine as well. Maybe a good option for quick reload, and you'll be moving a lot quicker as well. So that's one option to keep in mind there. You get that 40 round stick mag. Now with the handle, we're going to go ahead and skip on that. And stock option, we're going to go with a collapse stock. This is going to increase our sprint to fire time by 10%. So that's going to mitigate some of the negations or the hits or cons we got on some of the other attachments. Now if you're only allowed 5 attachments, I would get rid of the optic, as well as probably the underbarrel attachment, and that would give us our number of attachments. We can probably keep the stock option there as well. So keep that in mind. I think this is going to be a good, viable MP5 build. Definitely very dominant at those close quarters ranges. And again, with those extra 5 rounds, we'll have to see if that's even needed or not. But however, this weapon I think is going to be very key. It was already nerfed in Cold War, so we'll have to see how it compares to the MP5 in Modern Warfare. Next up is a shocker, I think, for most people. I think a lot of people probably expecting maybe the Stoner or the RPD. However, the M60 is a very unique weapon. It has a slow 550 to 600 rounds per minute fire rate in real life, and as well as here in the game, very slow. However, if you have the right attachments on there, I think it's going to be very, very good to get shots on target. And since it fires at 7.62 by 51 NATO round, I think it's going to hit pretty hard at your machine gun ranges. So first up, the optic. We're going to go the Royal Cross 4 times. This is, again, is personal preference. There's some other options here as well, like the Vulture Custom Zoom. You can toggle from 1 to 10 if you really want to. However, I think something like a 4 times or even maybe a 2 or 3 times optic is going to be key for this one, because you can engage at those typical ranges you would want to engage with a machine gun and keep your shots on target due to the low rate of fire with this weapon. So Royal Cross 4 times I think will be a nice level zoom optic here. Keep you really at the distance you want to be engaging, as well as allow you to be accurate with it. So the Royal Cross is what I'm going to pick. However, the 2 times and the 3 times are both viable options, I believe. Next up for the muzzle, we're going to really want to get as much recoil control and bullet velocity increase, as well as damage range increase out of this weapon. So I've opted not to use a suppressor. However, that's definitely something you probably will need in Warzone. But for this particular build, I'm just really concerned with how it's going to handle in Warzone. We're going to really wait and see what the stats look like for this weapon. But based on how it handles here in Cold War, I think the muzzle brake is a viable option. This will just help you out even more with that vertical recoil control, which we're going to need to keep shots on target. And since it, again, fires slow, you really don't want to take any hits to the damage range or the bullet velocity like you will with some of these suppressors here. Next up for the barrel, we're going to want the longest barrel option available here, the 22.8-inch Task Force. So for this one, the pros are going to be the damage is going to be increased by 10%, the effective damage range by 100%, and the bullet velocity by 100%. So if you have this option, you could maybe put on a suppressor and really negate any cons that it would have. Now the cons here are going to be the magazine ammo capacity, the max start on ammo, and the ammo capacity. So you just keep that in mind, since you're going to be able to be accurate at longer ranges. It's going to give you less ammunition. Body, we're going to go ahead and skip out. And for the underbarrel, again, we're going to go for that recoil control. We're going to want the Field Agent Grip. This is going to assist with the vertical recoil control by 8% and the horizontal recoil control by 30%. The cons here are going to be the shooting movement speed, which we're really not concerned with. This is a machine gun. We want to use it as a machine gun to those medium to longer range engagements to keep shots on target. So we'll go with that Field Agent Grip. Next up, magazine. Again, this is going to be an optional one, if depending on if we have 5 or more attachments. Fast mag, just to allow you to reload quicker. You could even go with a 100-round mag to hold more. I believe it holds 75 rounds at base, so keep that in mind. Fast mag will just allow you to increase your reload quickness by 30%. Could be an option you want, but again, we'll have to wait and see. Since it does have a slow rate of fire, you should be able to get shots on target to get enough kills with a 75-round box mag, but we'll have to wait and see again. Now the handle for this one, The SASR Jungle Grip is what I went with. This is going to increase the ADS time as well as the flinch resistance by 80%. So your ADS will be increased by 15%, and your flinch resistance will increase by 80%, which is going to be pretty key if you're trading shots with a faster firing weapon, maybe like a Kilo or a Bruin or even a PKM. Now the cons are going to be the sprint to fire speed by 12%. So those are our attachments for the M60. I think that's going to be a really good weapon actually in Warzone. Slower rate of fire, but again, if you're able to hit your shots precisely, it should hit pretty hard. So it should be even better, in my mind, than the M91 performs in Warzone. We'll have to wait and see. And the last option here for the sniper category, maybe a shocker for some, is going to be the M82. So you can see the options here. We have the Peloton 703, which we really have in game already, as well as the L3 Tundra, which is going to be a very viable option here. These are both bolt-action snipers, though. The M82 we have in game as the Rytec. However, it's interesting. The M82 here in Cold War is really the later production model of the M82, whereas the one in Modern Warfare is the original model of the M82. So I would expect these two to be switched. However, they went the opposite and went with the model I believe that should have been in Modern Warfare in Cold War and vice versa. So the attachments we're going to want for this, I think this is going to be a very interesting weapon. We're going to want the Ultra Zoom Custom. Now, this is going to be a really weird thing to see, or interesting, as you should say, for Warzone. If this is going to be an attachment that's actually allowed. So your max zoom for a sniper rifle right now, I believe, is 12. This is going to allow you to go from 2 times the magnification all the way out to 20 times the magnification, which is just going to be huge. If you think about the range engagements in Warzone, 20 times the magnification, you're almost double the max sniper range that you have with the variable zoom scope on any sniper rifle in Modern Warfare right now. So this could allow for very, very long range shots with the M82, firing that 50 caliber round. Next up for the muzzle, again, this is really going to be, you could probably even get away with nothing on this. However, the infantry stabilizer is going to reduce our idle sway control by 50%, which I think is going to be pretty key when lining up those longer range shots. The cons are the ADS time, but again, we're using this as a long range sniper. We're not really worried about that. Another option would be some of the suppressors here with these longer barrels, which again, we're going to have to wait and see. However, the thing is here, based on how the Rytec handles in Modern Warfare, is you already have really bad bullet velocity. So we really don't want to take any more hits to that. If we're assuming the stats are going to be similar to the Rytec, I think that's something we kind of want to avoid. And if you're lining up those longer range engagements with a 20 times magnified scope, it should allow you to be even more accurate than the Rytec is in Warzone. Now, next up is going to be the barrel. We're going to go with the 22.6-inch Tiger Team. This is going to increase our damage by 20%, fire rate by 18%, and our bullet velocity by 50%. The cons are going to be the magazine ammo capacity is reduced by 20%, max starter ammo reduced by 40%, and the ammo capacity overall reduced by 20%. But again, this is going to increase and allow us to get max range and bullet velocity on this weapon. Next up, body, we're going to skip. We don't need anything for that since it's a sniper rifle. The underbarrel attachment, we're going to go with the bipod. This is going to increase or help mitigate our vertical recoil control by 20% and our horizontal recoil control by 20%. The cons are the sprinting movement speed. But again, it's a sniper rifle. We're not worried about that. So we want the bipod. If you're able to use this in crouch or prone, it's going to be very accurate and help you out with the recoil control. Magazine, we're going to go with the 9-round magazine. However, this is going to be one of those optional attachments. If we're only allowed 5 attachments, we're going to have to skip out on this. But having more magazine ammo capacity is obviously going to be key for any weapon. Next up for the handle, again, this is going to be another possible optional attachment that you could swap out. But we're going to go with the ASR Jungle Grip. Again, this is going to increase our aim down sights time by 8% and our flinch resistant by 80%. So if you're trying to line up a shot and getting beamed by some sort of AR or something like that, it'll help you keep your eyes on target and hit that shot. Now, the con here is going to be the sprint to fire time by 12%. Now, for the stock option, I think, again, some of these you would swap out. If you only had 5 attachments, I would get rid of the magazine as well as probably the handle, and you'd be left with the stock, underbarrel, barrel, muzzle, and optic. But for the stock option, we're going to go with the Raider Pad. This is going to increase our sprint to fire time by 30% and our aim walking movement speed by 40%. The cons are going to be the hip fire accuracy by 30%, which we're not trying to hip fire with this. This, I guess, is really going to be another optional attachment, how it handles in Warzone, and if it's needed. If you're really utilizing that bipod and going in crouch or prone with this thing, you really won't need this attachment either. but I think that M82 is going to be pretty beast in Warzone, especially if you can hit your shots with that 20 times magnification. That should allow for very long range engagements. Yesterday on stream, I was using the Riotech, and I hit I believe a 568 meter headshot with the Riotech AMR, which is essentially the original M82. So that's with a max, I believe, a 12 times variable zoom optic. With a 20 times variable zoom, I can only imagine you'd be able to hit at least double that out to probably 1,100 or 1,200 meters, which would just be insane. So if you're lining it up correctly, that is. But the M82, probably our best sniper rifle. So if you go through this one more time, for the AR category, we're going to go with the Krig 6. However, I can also see the M4 or the XM4 being a viable option there as well. The M16 for the tactical rifle category. The MP5 for the submachine gun. For the light machine gun, we're going to go with the M60 for that lower rate of fire, allow you to keep control on your shots and hit your targets at ranges. And then for the sniper rifle category, the Barrett M82. You'll notice, obviously, this is the exact same model just about that was in COD 4 or Modern Warfare Remastered, so it's good to see that back. I know it's kind of a hit, everyone says it's kind of a hit marker in Cold War, and that's true unless you're hitting headshots, but again, Warzone, it should be balanced per Warzone, so I expect it to handle very similar to the Riotech. Some of these weapons we see already in Call of Duty Modern Warfare and Warzone, so I expect them to handle similar, like the AK, the M4s, MP5s, even the M82 and the Riotech should handle very similar. However, you have more attachments, I believe, in Cold War, which are going to separate the two weapons from each other, I believe. So let me know down below what you guys think of this list, what weapons you're leveling up for the integration of the Cold War weapons into Modern Warfare Warzone. And again, we should expect that update on the 16th of December here, along with, I'm sure, a lot of weapon balancing, which is desperately needed at this point in Warzone. I'll leave you guys with that. Let me know what you think down below. This is the top 5 weapons to level up for Cold War for the Warzone integration. Till next time, Buffner Gaming, out.